Thank you for joining us today, and I would like to welcome you to the Horizon Europe Malta launch event. Today we have over 320 researchers and stakeholders from Malta who have registered online. We welcome you. Thank you for joining us. And I would also like to welcome the members who have joined us here at the Planetarium Chaplains Hall at Esplora Interactive Science Centre. Today, we are celebrating Horizon Europe, which has a budget of around 95.5 billion euro for the years 2021-2027, making it the most ambitious research and innovation program in the world. Before we start, I would like to announce a few housekeeping rules. So for those joining us online, we kindly ask you to keep your mic muted and your camera off, unless given the floor to speak. You can ask questions anytime you wish throughout the event in the chat box. So please feel free to integrate with us and ask your questions. We would like to also ask any participants to follow us on our social media channels. That would be for Facebook, Horizon Europe Malta, Twitter, LinkedIn, and YouTube. Today we are also honored to have the Minister for Research and Innovation here with us and the Executive Chairman of the Malta Council for Science and Technology. And in fact, I would like to invite the Executive Chairman for the Malta Council for Science and Technology, Dr. Jeffrey Pullicino Orlando, to deliver his welcome speech. I wish you all a fruitful event. Thank you.
Thank you, Giselle. Honourable Minister Bonnici, thank you for finding the time to join us and support us today. Distinguished guests from the European Commission, ladies and gentlemen. It is my pleasure to welcome you to the Horizon Europe launch event in our country. Due to the current circumstances, a traditional launch event was obviously not possible. We regrettably couldn't host you at our beautiful venue, Esplora, but we do hope that once things settle down, you will be able to visit us very soon. The Malta Council for Science and Technology is dedicated to bringing technology and innovation closer to the Maltese Islands. We have been a driving force in providing key advice to governments on science and technology policy for many years, as well as successfully implementing national and EU-led research innovation programs. We're proud of the work that's being carried out by our team, and this ranges from managing our National Research and Innovation Fund to developing the Space Research Fund, administering the Framework Programme for Research and Innovation in Malta, amongst other roles. Within the framework of the National Research and Innovation Strategy, Malta is striving to reach its targets as an innovation hub in the Mediterranean. The research community in Malta has grown at an exceptional rate. We now have nearly 1% of our population holding PhDs, and we also have close to 900 researchers permanently carrying out research activities on our islands. Malta has also heavily invested in research infrastructures through ERDF and other financing programs. In the context of European funding, Horizon 2020 has played a major role not only for the European Union, but also for our country. The programme has helped numerous Maltese-based scientists to obtain funding and collaborate with European and international scientists in all sectors, be they private or public. Together, they have found solutions to a vast array of challenges. Their innovations have improved our lives, helped protect the environment, and have made European industry more sustainable and competitive. Malta has greatly benefited from EU innovation funding within the Horizon 2020 programme. To date, Horizon 2020 has supported 166 projects with 223 Maltese participants, and we have managed to attract towards our research community €32 million in funding from this programme. Since the last Horizon 2020 calls closed only a few weeks ago, we are confident that these numbers will rise. We are also pleased that Malta's participation has increased over the years, and it is notable that it has in fact increased dramatically since the last framework programme, FP7. Today, we will honour some of these successful projects through the Horizon 2020 Malta Awards. This is a scheme launched by the Malta Council for Science and Technology last year, and it aims to award successful projects with Maltese coordinators or beneficiaries. The projects will be awarded today, and we're sure that you'll find them and their beneficiary stories inspirational. They will also surely encourage others to take part in projects in the new framework programme, Horizon Europe. Horizon Europe is the biggest ever programme for research and innovation, with a budget of around €95 billion. And, as I said, it is being launched in Malta today. The Council is proud to administer such an important programme. Our national contact points play a crucial role in supporting the successful applications of national stakeholders by assisting Maltese entities and researchers throughout the whole process. Furthermore, MCST administers national funds, and these help and support our clients to prepare and submit applications in the framework programme. We'll be hearing more about these services and support schemes later on this afternoon. I'd encourage all of you who are interested in the programme to contact our NCP support team. Feel free to make use of their very, very efficient service. We're honoured that we have such high-level speakers from the European Commission today who will be addressing the event and providing an overview of the programme. Regrettably, European Commissioner for Innovation, Research and Culture, Ms. Mariya Gabriel, was not able to join us, but she has sent a video message to help us celebrate the occasion. To close, I'd like to wish everyone a successful event, an enjoyable afternoon, and I'd like to pass the words to our Minister, the Honourable Owen Bonnici. Thanks a lot.
Good morning, Dr. Pullicino Orlando. Good morning, everyone. I want to begin by thanking the staff at MCST for everything you are doing to get research and innovation on the national map, for the hundreds of emails you send continuously, week in and week out, to our stakeholders to explain what is going on, for the numerous answers to so many questions which you readily give, and for doing that with kindness and a smile, and for bolstering the sector so much. The same level of thanks also goes to our partners within the European Commission, who have been very supportive with us from the word go, particularly for doing so in the middle of a cruel disease which attacks many of the most beautiful things of our humanity: socialization, love of human contact, and warmth. I am very proud of what the government has done to safeguard our health and our economy, and for the fantastic way the vaccination program is progressing. Malta, in this field, is a trailblazer, and a massive thank you goes to our healthcare practitioners and scientists who are doing wonders. I want to thank the hundreds who have Zoomed in today. I want to tell you that we are working overtime to bolster the ecosystem of research and innovation in our country, and that we will succeed. The road is by no means an easy one. Building an edifice is no mean feat, but together we will get there. I have absolutely no doubt. We are today celebrating the launch of Horizon Europe in the backdrop of change, for it is impossible that events of this magnitude, such as COVID-19, simply appear and then disappear as if nothing had happened in between. No, they stimulate change, they trigger change, they accentuate change. As the British Prime Minister Boris Johnson has said only a few days ago, we human beings will not simply content ourselves with a repair job. We see these moments as the time to learn to improve on the world that went before. And that is so true. And it is in this backdrop that Horizon Europe is being launched. Post-COVID, we want to construct a better world than the one we had before. And Horizon Europe, with its fantastic budget of 95.5 billion euros, we are making a bold statement that research and innovation in this historic point in time are the keys to our fantastic new home called Better Future. And if we want truly to build a better Malta, which is undoubtedly the greatest place on earth, what's best than building an innovation nation, a research island, call it what you want, with little atoms called research pumping through its veins? We can do that. This is Horizon Europe, the largest transnational program of its kind which exists in the whole world. But we need to grab the handle of the fantastic door of opportunity which Horizon Europe provides and flung it wide open. Now is the time to punch above our weight, and dear researchers and innovators, as the famed Grandmaster Jean de la Valette had almost said, ne la se pas la figue de barber tomber dans votre bouche. And from this end, we are doing our share. We have created a new whole ministry dedicated to research and innovation. Ignore for a second that it is being led by me. We have increased the budget of the National Research and Innovation Program managed by MCST. We are investing in European partnerships, and therefore Malta will start participating actively in a number of partnerships, and we are committing national funds to further our opportunities for Maltese entities engaged in R&I, as well as furthering other national schemes managed by MCST aimed at increasing the participation of Maltese entities in Horizon Europe. The logic is simple: the more Maltese entities and researchers participate actively in the EU R&I program, the more it will result in the creation of markets and jobs in Malta. That way, we would also attract the best talents to stay in Malta and others to follow suit and come to Malta, whether as individual researchers or larger companies, to set up their research, development, and innovation departments here. And the launch of this program also marks the start of the European Innovation Council, which will help accelerate the scaling up of breakthrough technologies, which could result into game-changing innovation, thanks to direct assistance to the most promising, most innovative, most energetic, impressive, courageous, ingenious, inventive, new, original, avant-garde, newfangled, state-of-the-art startups, call them what you want, and SMEs, leading to a new generation of world-leading companies based in Europe. The fact that the EU's Research and Innovation Framework Programme Horizon Europe is proposing a missions approach can help set broad and ambitious goals in addressing societal challenges, while I believe that R&I can help us reconcile economic growth and productivity with quality of life and public health, and this while ensuring the highest level of environmental protection. The future, my dear friends, is shaped by us, by the things we are doing today, by the things we are doing right now, by the success that we will be having together. Thank you so much.
Thank you very much, Honourable Dr. Owen Bonnici, Minister for Research, Innovation and the Coordination of Post-COVID-19 Strategy. And thank you, Dr. Pullicino Orlando, for your intervention earlier. As Dr. Pullicino Orlando mentioned earlier, unfortunately, the European Commissioner will not be joining us here physically today, but she has sent a video which will be an audio clip which we'll be listening to shortly. So I would like to invite our technical team to roll the audio of Ms. Mariya Gabriel, European Commissioner for Innovation, Research and Culture. Thank you.
Dear Minister, dear Dr. Orlando, ladies and gentlemen, dear researchers and innovators, I'm very pleased to welcome you at the launch of Horizon Europe program in Malta. Our researchers, innovators, stakeholders and citizens expect us to deliver, especially in such difficult times as we live in now, and we showed in the last 1 year that the Union is able to deliver and solve unexpected challenges. It is time to kick off Horizon Europe and to make use of all the opportunities it will offer to our research and innovation communities to develop their ideas for making Europe more resilient, greener and digitally fit. At first, allow me to give you some data on Malta's performance against the European research and innovation landscape. Between 2012 and 2019, Malta has improved its performance in our European Innovation Scoreboard by 24.7%. Moreover, the country registered a high performance for human resources, attractive research systems, an innovation-friendly environment and intellectual assets. 42% of total employment in Malta is employed in knowledge-intensive activities. As a whole, the human capital with research skills within the Maltese workforce is growing. Malta does well in collaborating with countries on research and innovative projects. Maltese stakeholders are interested in participating in internationalization initiatives. This is understandable given the increasing importance of collaborating and connecting with counterparts abroad. Maltese researchers have a higher interest and success rate in obtaining funded projects under certain thematic work packages. The top priority areas in the Horizon 2020 budget going to Malta are the Marie Skłodowska-Curie actions and food security, sustainable agriculture and forestry, marine and maritime and inland water research, and the bioeconomy. At the same time, Malta encounters challenges related to delivering innovation and bringing a new product or services to market and scaling up. Companies, particularly SMEs and startups, need our support to actually move beyond the prototype stage and successfully bring their innovation to the market. In this context, Malta is a country of talented researchers, innovators and startups with big potential for creating more compact and impactful research and innovation ecosystem. So now, how will contribute Horizon Europe to turn the existing challenges in the research and innovation landscape of Malta into opportunities? Horizon Europe comes at a critical moment to support the so much needed recovery of the EU, side by side with the Next Generation European Programme. From basic research in all fields of science to the development of technologies to create innovative products and services and scale them up to the market, you will find funding opportunities in Horizon Europe. Some of these ideas will complement the strategic recovery plans addressing the necessary investment on advancing European capacity in areas such as sustainable energy like hydrogen, automated transport or artificial intelligence applied to healthcare or industrial manufacturing. Horizon Europe cuts across all disciplines for increased impact and has the necessary flexibility to address emerging future challenges. It will continue to support frontier research mainly through the European Research Council and the mobility of researchers through a reinforced Marie Skłodowska-Curie actions. It will support also the development of excellent research infrastructures for European researchers. It is essential for them to have access to the best instrumentation to explore our universe or to understand the quantum world. There will be many challenges to overcome in the green transition and to ensure the competitiveness of the European industry capable to offer more and better jobs. We need to make sure that our research and innovation efforts deliver impactful results in critical domains for our citizens, such as health or culture and creativity, to build an inclusive society. To give incentives to our entrepreneurs and startups, supporting the emergence of new actors with breakthrough and market-creating innovations, will have the European Innovation Council. It will work alongside with the European innovation ecosystems and the European Institute of Innovation and Technology. The result of the pilot project with the European Innovation Council are very promising for what we want to become, the European Unicorn Factory. Another important novelty are the missions. Horizon Europe will incorporate research and innovation missions to increase the effectiveness of funding by pursuing clearly defined targets, a unique difference to Horizon 2020. We'll stay focused on ambitious, time-bound and achievable goals to deliver on common European goods. 3 million lives saved from cancer. Regions adapted to climate change. Clean oceans, seas and waters. 100 climate-neutral and smart cities. And healthy soils and food. Another way to achieve more visible and concrete impact is our European partnerships. Their number has been reduced from more than 120 in Horizon 2020 to 49. The purpose is to have them more targeted. And you will be able to make use also of the specific support to countries that need to improve their innovation potential. Horizon Europe will dedicate resources to widening the participation and strengthening the European research area. I initiated the preparation of a widening strategy that will ensure that excellent science is spread in all countries and that necessary reforms are made with member states to help them achieve their transitions. Allow me to conclude by recalling that we have learned from this crisis that research, education and innovation are critical to drive our future, and we have the opportunity to pursue the green and digital transitions that our planet needs and our society demands. We have a great program in terms of scope and budget. I strongly believe that the novelties of Horizon Europe, such as the missions or the European Innovation Council, will make research and innovation more concrete, creating more impact for European citizens. And I strongly believe that together we can unlock the innovation potential from Europe's incredible joint research and education capacity. It's up to us to make from Horizon Europe a key lever to get momentum on innovation and research in Europe. Welcome in Horizon Europe Malta. I wish you a lot of successes.
Thank you very much, Ms. Mariya Gabriel, for a very optimistic speech and for welcoming Horizon Europe Malta. We now move on to an exciting part of our program. We will be moving on to the presentation of the Horizon 2020 Awards. Last year, the Malta Council for Science and Technology was pleased to launch these awards. The awards reward Maltese beneficiaries for having participated in research and innovation projects within the Horizon 2020 framework program. The aim of these awards is to recognize and celebrate outstanding projects that through their results have transcended benefits to the scientific research community, policymakers and society as a whole. Moreover, the awards demonstrate the socio-economic benefits of investment in research and innovation and aim to increase participation from Maltese entities in this EU framework program, which is Horizon Europe. The scheme had different award categories for legal entities and one for individual researchers. The award categories are Most Active Research Award, Best Promotion of STEM Award, Best Technological Innovation Award, Best Innovative SME Award, Best Impact for Health, Security or Smart Mobility Award, the Blue Award, and the Green Award. So that was a bit of an overview about the awards. In a moment, we will be announcing today's awards, and for that, I would like to invite the Minister, the Honourable Dr. Owen Bonnici, and our Executive Chairman to take their place so that we will be able to announce our winners. So, I think we should have a drum roll here, just like they do it in the awards anywhere else in the world. So we will start. Our first award will be for the Most Active Researcher Award. And the award goes to Yorgos Yannakakis. May I kindly invite you to take the award. Well done. So I believe we will be watching a video and some
My research lies at the crossroads between artificial intelligence and games and media, and I have been working in this area for the last 15 years. Throughout my career, I have managed to attract more than 6 million euros of research funding to support the research activities of the groups I manage. Within the Horizon 2020 framework program, we managed to attract 9 projects, which include both Marie Curie actions and research and innovation actions. Nowadays, we experience a co-revolution, as I call it. On one end, we experience a revolution of artificial intelligence. On the other end, we experience the revolution of games. If you think about it, half of the Earth's population is actually playing games. Our research funded by the Horizon 2020 projects have been focusing on that relationship, the ways that games can actually assist AI to advance and the way AI can actually assist games to advance further in application areas like creativity, education, health, and culture.
And now we move on to the next award. That would be for Best Promotion of STEM Award. The winning project is called Era for STEM. I would like to invite Angel Guglielmo from Across Limits to receive the award. Well done. And once again, we will have a look at the video and photos put together.
The project ER for STEM has tried to make the idea of science and technology more entertaining for students. In fact, we have been around Europe teaching about 5,000 different students how to program little robots just like this one that I have in my hand, that's called Dash, in order to teach them how to do programming. Here in Malta, we have used this approach with about 900 students, and I can tell you that they were all very engaged and all very entertained. We hope that this will continue increasing the interest in science and technology across Europe, because we know there is a lack of people working in this area, and therefore we need to push more. Projects like ER for STEM help us to have more exchanges between different researchers in education, in finding solutions to help the future.
Third award, which is the Best Technological Innovation Award. The project name is iFiscienci, and to receive the award, I would like to invite Tamas Bardos on behalf of George Mantos from the company Aqua Biotech Limited. Very well done. And once again, we will have a
The ambition of the iFiscienci project is to integrate new digital solutions into the aquaculture technologies to make the use of resources more efficient and reduce the production costs and risk. The core part of the project is to develop a biology online steering system called iBoss, which will monitor and control all aspects of the fish and their environment to support the fish farmers to develop their feeding methods, which is very critical for a sustainable production of the fish. The project also demonstrates how smart breeding and feeding can improve the farming of tilapia and African catfish to support the economic development and food security of economically developing countries. Aqua Biotech is the only Maltese partner and coordinator of this project, and also doing research and innovation actions to develop the recirculating aquaculture technology.
So well done once again to all three awardees. We are very proud to have people like you in Malta. As the Minister mentioned and our Executive Chairman earlier, we are very happy to have you be part of our research and innovation community. Well done once again. So now we move on to our next speaker. Unfortunately, we will not be joined by Mr. Jean-Éric Paquet, who is the Director General for Research and Innovation from the European Commission, but in his stead, we will be joined by Ms. Signe Ratso, who is the Deputy Director. So I would like to invite Ms. Ratso to deliver her speech. Thank you.
Good afternoon, everyone. I have an echo. Can you do something about it? Sorry, when I tested earlier, then it was fine. Okay, can you hear me now? No, there's still echo. Okay, now I think it's better. Okay, sorry for that. It's my great pleasure to join you today at this Horizon Europe launch event in Malta. Unfortunately, it's not been possible to travel over, but I really enjoyed the beautiful views of Malta, and this reminded of my pre-visit that I paid to your beautiful country, and hope that there will be also the occasions in the future. Now, Malta is a small country. I also come from a small country, from Estonia. And for us, being a member of the European Union has been indispensable. And I believe that it's also for the researchers, for the universities, for the companies from our countries, it's really a golden opportunity to be part of a big program as Horizon Europe is. As it was mentioned at the beginning of the event, Horizon Europe will have a budget of over 95 billion euros for the next 7 years. What we can add to it is actually also the contributions from the associated countries. As a member of the board of the DG Research and Innovation and Deputy Director General, one of my responsibilities is to be chief negotiator for actually the contributions from the associated countries could add some 20% to our program. But this is not only the budget, they will also add excellence, they will add additional networks, making the program richer, and also adding the additional opportunities for the researchers also from Malta. We also heard quite a few figures from the benefits that the Maltese participants have already gained. I heard the number 32 million from Dr. Orlando. Earlier, also Commissioner Gabriel also mentioned quite a few figures and benefits that Malta has already gained from the program. And certainly there would be many more opportunities in the new program. Now, what I'd like to do now is actually to continue with a small story. Yesterday, I listened to an interview with the president of the Academy of Sciences in Estonia, Tarmo Soomere. He's a well-known figure in Estonia, not because of his position so much, but because he's also an excellent communicator who can explain science in easy, understandable way to the ordinary citizens. And what he mentioned yesterday was that if there has been anything positive from the COVID-19 crisis, the role of scientists and research has actually become very clear to every citizen. The contribution that research has actually paid is literally to the lives of Europeans. And it's quite clear that without research and innovation, we wouldn't have been able to have the rollout of vaccines in a record time, and not only the rollout of a couple of vaccines, but actually several, and several more are under development. Having all European research program has Horizon 2020 has enabled to mobilize the resources also in very short time and to a great extent, namely to find solutions to the vaccines, to the cures, and testing everything that has been really crucial during the pandemic. Now, looking into the future, and as it was also outlined by Commissioner Gabriel, the role of research and innovation in tackling the major global challenges that we have, whether in the climate, in the area of environment, or in the economic and social sphere, would not be possible without the contribution of research and innovation. What we also intend to do is not only to use the program as such, but also to align our research and innovation policies and also the programs with member states, much more than has been the case so far, and to do that as part of the European research area. And certainly Malta has an important contribution to pay there. I also heard from Dr. Orlando that you have an ambition to be an innovation hub in the Mediterranean. This is really a very high ambition, and certainly Horizon Europe program, and particularly its European Innovation Council, will also help you to do that. You will hear more about the novelties of the program, about the missions, partnerships, European Innovation Council later today. Let me just highlight one of the novelties in the missions, which is related to citizen engagement. On the 9th of May, the launch of the Conference of the Future of Europe will take place. As you know, we also have one of the priorities of the current Commission is democracy. And in the first time in the history of the European Commission, we also have a Vice President who is responsible for that. Citizens can certainly, the co-creation with citizens would actually make our policies better, and this will also concern research and innovation policy. That's why we've piloted citizen engagement in the missions. Several citizen engagement events took place in all member states over the last summer for all mission areas, even if they had to become digital rather than physical events, but they certainly contributed to finalizing also the missions within the mission areas. And this is also something which we intend to do in the implementation phase, but also in the phase where we assess the success of the missions. This is also something that we encourage very much member states to do, because it's important that missions really relate to citizens and that they help to find solutions to everyday problems and issues that people face in their environment, in the member states, and in their regions. Another issue that I'd like to highlight also in relation to the novelties of the program, and this is also related to Horizon Europe associations. I know that Malta has been supportive of that, but what is the novelty is that in addition to the countries in the vicinity of Europe, from where now all the associated countries come from, we also open up for the countries from far away, with countries with whom we share a high level of research and innovation, but also the same values. Countries like Canada, Australia, New Zealand, Japan, South Korea, Singapore have expressed interest in this option, and certainly this could enrich our program even more to make it not even more excellent, but also having spillover effects of additional economic growth, sustainability, and productivity. And all of these features will be the ones that we will very much need in the future. So hoping to work very closely together with Malta in the implementation of Horizon Europe, and hope that this program will be even more successful for the for the beneficiaries from Malta. Thank you very much.
There for a fantastic contribution speech there, and we would now like to move on onto our second part of the award giving ceremony. And now I would like to introduce and invite Director Ms. Anthea Fabri, who is the Director for the Framework Program Unit at MCST. Thank you for joining us. So we move on to the second batch of the awards, and the next award is for Best Innovative SME. The project name is Brain Trip, and the awardee is Igor Aksentijevic, who is not here today to tell me how to pronounce the name, but I'm sure he is joining us online and will be receiving the award online. Thank you. We'll watch the video, so we will watch the video straight away, and we can follow the work of this project.
Dementia is a terrible disease that will affect upwards of 10% of all adults over 60, and current diagnostic tools available simply aren't suitable for large-scale screening purposes. Early treatment and targeted socioeconomic interventions are all key to maintaining quality of life for people with dementia. Current tools are too expensive, like MRIs, or invasive, like spinal tap tests, or simply too slow, like clinical observation. We need new tools if we're going to tackle this looming global problem, which is what the World Health Organization calls the ever-increasing incidence and prevalence of dementia. The SME Phase 1 grant helped BrainTrip invest in key steps related to market analysis, product development, and CE marking. It was a vital contribution to our startup in its earliest incubation stage. BrainTrip is now scheduled to bring our solution, a fully featured dementia screening test, to the market in the third quarter of 2021.
And now we move on to our next award, which is the Best Impact on Health, Security or Smart Mobility Award. The project name is Bio2Excel Center of Excellence for Computational Biomolecular Research. Again, we have Ms. Angel Giuliano to receive the award on behalf of Across Limits. Well done once again, and we kindly ask the technical crew to roll the next video.
BioExcel 2 is a center of excellence for computational modeling of large biomolecular structures. What this means is that we use large supercomputers in order to do calculations and simulations that help the creation of new pharmaceuticals. The advantage of this is that therefore we can do a lot of different experiments in silico and no need to actually do extensive testing on animals and on humans. So in a way, it's much more ethical. What we're helping with from Malta is to really look at the future of this Center of Excellence, and we're also creating a legal entity as a European association to make sure that the great advantages of this diverse Center of Excellence continue existing even after the end of the project.
the Blue Award, and the project name for this award is Venture, and I would like to invite Mr. Kurt Mitzi to receive the award on behalf of the company NAS. Thank you. And once again, we would like to roll the next video. Thank you.
Malta having a very strategic position in the middle of the Mediterranean and being globally recognized as a flag of registry has the potential to be more prominent in the maritime industry. Therefore, we need to give more attention to the subjects of naval architecture and ship design. This has therefore incentivized the University of Malta to invest in a towing test facility as well as virtual testing procedures. However, in order to operate and run such processes requires the expertise and support from entities which are experienced in this field. Therefore, through this project, all the partners are collaborating together to transfer knowledge between them, to increase their network capacity, and to raise their research profile, as well as support such processes in the long term. Therefore, by the end of it, this project will contribute to helping Malta develop further its marine industry.
And now we move on to the Green Award, which goes to Symphornexus Avram Mavridis. And I would like to invite Marcus. So I guess it's Avram Mavridis is going to receive the award on behalf of Marcus Bonanzuntas for the company Epsilon in Malta. And once again, we roll the next video. Thank you.
An energy that's efficient, an energy that is not polluting or does not have greenhouse gas emissions. This, however, is a balance between energy resources that has to be optimized. Therefore, Commission has funded the Nexus project that looks at this item and delivers software technology and decision support system and a serious game for politicians, administrators and others. We have been fortunate to be in this project not only because it's a unique one, but also because we have been able to drive this project with space technologies. Space technologies today are useful for countries that do not have the data versus countries like the Europeans that have a lot of data. So the final product is a technology driven by space or readily available data in Europe that is to be used by policymakers. Policymakers then can, at NATS3 as we call it, or at country levels, estimate the better balance between efficient, clean energy, good resources used for agriculture, food, and other industrial purposes.
Well done, MCST, for recognizing these researchers, initiatives, projects. Very well deserved, very diverse fields, which I'm sure will benefit not only our society, but also Europe in general. We now move on to our next speaker, and earlier on, Ms. Santos already noted about the novelties in the Horizon Europe program. This time, we will be hearing about the missions, and for this, I would like to invite Ms. Minna Wilkki, who is the head of unit, DG R&I, Missions and Partnerships Unit. In your good hands. Thank you.
Can you hear me? Okay, I have a presentation. Anthea, if you could upload it. Perfect. So yes, my name is Minna Wilkki. I'm the head of unit of the Common Missions and Partnership Service of DG Research and Innovation. And my unit is responsible for the policy approach for missions and partnerships and for coordinating all the horizontal aspects in relation to these. Several other services in the European Commission are in charge of the individual missions and the partnerships, but my unit is the coordinating one. Next slide, please. Can you see the slides? Yes. So in the next 15 minutes, I will explain you why we introduced missions in Horizon Europe, what constitutes a mission, and how we are preparing missions with these guiding principles in our minds. Next slide. You may recall that missions approach was first proposed already in 2017 in the so-called LAMI report as a new way of increasing impact of EU's research and innovation programs and to bring it closer to the citizens in order to do this increasing impact. And according to the LAMI report, missions or moonshots should have a breakthrough or transformative potential for science, technology, and industry or society. They should address EU's biggest priorities, issues that are close to citizens' hearts and well-being, and they should above all be easy to communicate and capture public imagination and involvement. They should mobilize many actors and investors, including from member states and regions and cities, and prompt actions across disciplines and sectors and institutional silos. Next slide. So what are missions? After the LAMI report recommendation, Professor Mariya Mazzucato, who was advising Commissioner Moedas at the time, prepared for us a report describing in more detail what missions approach could look like in Horizon Europe. She set a clear criteria for missions, and according to which missions must be bold and inspirational with wide societal relevance, and that's the EU priorities, of course. They must be targeted and measurable and time-bound, and the missions we are now working on are, the time bound is 2030. They must be ambitious, but realistic at the same time in terms of research and innovation actions, but they must also spark innovations across disciplines and sectors and different actors. And they are very much based on bottom-up approach of multiple solutions. So it would not only be commissions saying what should be done, but these have to come from bottom-up, from those who will be then implementing and making missions happen. Next slide. So this became the basis of what we now have in Horizon Europe legal texts on missions and the backbone of our work in the Commission and with the member states to prepare missions. And only with these guiding principles, the EU missions will be able to actually get enough visibility and impact, deliver solutions to some of the biggest challenges in Europe, inspire joint bottom-up and top-down efforts to deliver on the objectives, and bring Europe closer to its citizens. Next slide. In Horizon Europe Regulation Annex 6, there is a list of 5 possible areas for missions, and these have been agreed jointly with the co-legislators. Next slide. Horizon Europe regulation also spells out that missions shall be programmed within Pillar 2 of the program, but they may also benefit from actions carried out within other parts of the program, in other pillars of the program, as well as complementary actions under other union funding programs or of the programs and policies by the member states, regions, cities, and by citizens' initiatives. This way, missions will operate as a portfolio of actions, research projects, policy measures, or even legislative initiatives to achieve a measurable goal that could not be achieved through individual actions. Next slide. In my opinion, the real novelty of missions is the strong involvement of citizens at all stages of missions, in the design phase, in the implementation phase, and the monitoring phase. That will increase the relevance of the missions and the buy-in of missions, and that they will be easier to implement. The mission boards, the 5 high-level advisory groups who have been advising the Commission in the preparation of missions, have been engaging with citizens since the beginning, and citizens' activities will continue. For example, we have organized now in summer, because of COVID, we organized 10 citizen engagement virtual sessions with citizens. Next slide. So where are we now? The 5 mission boards started their work in September and delivered their reports on what the missions could be a year later at the RNI days last year. And their reports are, by the way, available or online. The 5 missions already mentioned by Commissioner Gabriel are Conquering Cancer, Mission Possible, Climate Resilient Europe, Prepare Europe for Climate Disruptions and Accelerate the Transformation to a Climate Resilient and Just Europe by 2030. Mission Starfish 2030, Restore Our Ocean and Waters. 100 Climate Neutral Cities by 2030, by and for the citizens. And Caring for Soil is Caring for Life. The Commission then analyzed these reports and validated the proposed missions at the end of October last year. This was the project group of Research and Innovation Commissioners. But at the same time, the Commission decided that that we need to take a little bit more time so that missions could be realistically implemented and to have the necessary buy-in from the other Commission services than Research and Innovation only, and from our stakeholders. So therefore, the missions are now in a preparatory phase of maximum 12 months, during which a limited number of actions in Horizon Europe can be programmed, 5 million euros maximum for each mission, but which could then, at the end of this preparatory phase, be rapidly scaled up. So missions will have a separate part in Horizon Europe work program, the one that we will be now publishing, hopefully end of April. These preparatory actions will aim to lay the foundations for the mission's approach. And in addition to the individual mission parts, there will be horizontal actions, for example, for setting up the new mission boards. And there will also be a CSA, a coordination and support action on transnational cooperation on the mission's approach, which will support national, regional, and local approaches to deploy missions, which will map national, regional, and local stakeholders, civil society organizations, and institutions, and which will prepare for potential hubs by missions at national level. There will also be new actions for informing citizens and stakeholders about missions and engaging them in their implementation. Internally, the Commission has used this preparatory phase also to set up the necessary governance systems for missions, because missions are not only about research and innovation. We need to engage with all the Commission services. So, for example, there will be mission managers managing the portfolio of missions actions, and their deputies, deputy mission managers managers in different DGs of the Commissions. For cities, it will be alternating between DG Move and DG Ener. For climate, it will be in DG Klima. For oceans, it will be in DG Mare. For cancer, it will be in DG Research and Santé. And for soil, it will be in DG Agri. Next slide. The mission managers, together with the mission owners groups, which are the groups involving all concerned Commission services, kind of inter-service group, are now preparing detailed implementation plans for each mission. These implementation plans will include an intervention logic, actions to be supported, investment strategies, and indicators for monitoring. We are working together with the member states on this through the Strategic Shadow Program Committee and the specific mission subgroups, consulting their views on missions implementation. And we are also keeping the European Parliament informed on the developments. At the end of the preparatory phase, hopefully by summer break, the Commission will take a decision on missions to enter the full implementation phase, based on criteria in Horizon Europe regulation and the feasibility for success as shown by these implementation plans. There will also be a Commission communication on missions to be adopted, hopefully at the time of the decision on the moving to the next phase, so end of summer or early autumn, where the way forward will be confirmed. And following that, the Horizon Europe work program will be then amended for the full-on implementation phase. Next slide. So as I said before, missions will be implemented in Horizon Europe within Pillar 2 through calls. But to have real impact, support is needed beyond Horizon Europe. We need to align policy and legislation. We need to align other funding and financial instruments to support the deployment of missions. We need to align with national and regional strategies, And we need to leverage further investment for missions implementation from private sources. We will be working closely with the member states on the definition of mission targets and on creating synergies with national and regional strategies, and closely coordinating with European Parliament to ensure links to citizens and political priorities, and with citizens via the citizens engagement activities and through citizen science activities. Next slide. So here's a recap of the timeline, which I outlined already. And the Commission shall be monitoring and evaluating each mission, and an assessment of the first missions established under the programme shall take place at the latest in 2023, and before any decision is taken on creating new missions or on continuing, terminating on, or redirecting ongoing missions. Thank you. That, I think, was the last slide. Next, if you can just check, next slide. Yes, that was it. Thank you very much. And I'll see you then after the break for partnerships presentation.
Thank you very much for a very informative presentation there. And as already anticipated, we are now going to stop for a short coffee break, and we ask you to join us in 20 minutes. See you soon. Thank you. So, welcome back, everybody, and I hope you managed to have a little bit of a rest there. We are now ready to move on to our second part, and I would like to invite a speaker who was already on the floor before. I'd like to invite Miss Minna Wilkki, who will now be talking to us about the partnerships section of Novelties in the Horizon Europe program. Minna?
Thank you, Giselle. I have another presentation, if somebody could upload it. Can you hear me?
Yes, we can hear you.
So while we are waiting, I'm the head of unit of the Common Missions and Partnership Service of the European Commission, for those who didn't see me already in the previous presentation. And my unit is coordinating the different partnerships initiatives, 49 of them that we will now have in Horizon Europe across the Commission services, so that we have a common policy approach for European partnerships, which are hugely complex and technical. Next slide. So I will now present to you the new approach to European partnerships under Horizon Europe. Next slide. And more concretely, I will present to you the logic behind the new approach, how they have been identified and prepared together with the member states, by the way. What are the important features that you need to be aware of under this new approach? What is the current status of preparations and the next steps of preparations? And then giving you some useful sources of information where you can get information about the individual partnership proposals. Next slide. This is the current landscape of partnerships under Horizon 2020, be it public-private or public-public partnerships. And as you will see, it's very, very complex. There are different types of partnerships, many acronyms, and many implementation modes. It includes the EIT KICs and FED flagships also, as they have all ring-fenced budgets. And together that makes over 120 networks or partnerships implemented under Horizon 2020, as was mentioned by Commissioner Gabriel as well. So therefore, following the interim evaluation of Horizon 2020, it was decided that it's a need to simplify and rationalize this landscape, improve the openness and transparency of these partnerships, and tie them more closely and clearly to EU's policy priorities. And this new approach was developed together with the member states over many years of time. Next slide. So how are we simplifying all this? What is the new approach? For the first time in Horizon Europe, we will have a common set of key features that apply to all partnerships. We will only have partnerships that will deliver on strategic orientations of Horizon Europe. There needs to be evidence that a partnership and not another type of instrument is necessary to achieve these objectives. We will have a common simplified toolbox and architecture for partnerships. And we will have a common set of rules when it comes to the selection, implementation, monitoring and phasing out of partnerships. And we will have only 3 types of implementation types of partnerships. And I will go through them in a minute, but here you can already see them in the increasing order of complexity. The co-programmed, co-funded, and then finally the institutionalized, which are based under Article 185 or 187 of the Treaty of the European Union. Next slide. There will be common elements for all partnerships. As you will see, the list is fairly long, as we want to get away from the instrument-driven approach. All partnerships now have the same brand. Only partnerships that deliver on EU priorities, such as the European Green Deal, Europe Fit for Digital Age, Stronger Europe in the World, or an economy that works for people, and EU strategies like the biodiversity strategy, SME strategy, industrial strategy will be allowed. There will be one set of coherent criteria that will apply to all partnerships across their life cycle in the Horizon Europe regulation, which will make implementers and beneficiaries follow similar rules. It will be simpler. What are the key conditions for launching a partnership? Here, the Strategic Research and Innovation Agenda, SRIA, is the master plan. And there the partners will determine what they want to achieve and how over the 7 years of cooperation. Important, it's not only what will be funded by the EC money, the Commission money, but also what the partners bring to the table, the resources and the different activities. The partners will have to demonstrate in these areas their long-term commitment, at least for the duration of the program, which is generally the 7 years, to mobilize resources and to contribute. All partnerships will have to work on the basis of annual work programs. The work program will be established through an annual planning process, which will translate the elements of the SRIA into annual priorities and activities, almost all with open calls. We want partnerships to do more than classical research and innovation projects, for example, building links with the missions, with structural funds, reaching out to other programs, etc., building synergies. So partnerships are built around these principles. The differences between them come around the legal technicalities linked to their form of implementation. And I'm moving on to explaining them now by the 3 different types. Next slide. Co-programmed. Here we have the first kind of partnership. They are based on the principle of division of labor. They are very similar to the CPPPs in the previous programs. These used to be established only with industry, but now it has changed. For example, in the European Open Science Cloud, we will also have member states included. This form of European partnerships is based upon a memorandum of understanding to be signed by the European Commission and the private and/or public partners. The private partners are represented by industry associations, which also function as the back office for the partnership. The Memorandum of Understanding sets out who does what independently during the 7 years of the partnership. This type of partnership allows for a large degree of flexibility for the activities, partners, and the priorities of the partnerships to continuously evolve. The commitments of the partners are political as opposed to legal, and the contributions from partners are typically provided in kind rather than financially. The calls implemented by the Commission appear in Pillar 2 of the program under the relevant clusters, while partners implement their activities and investments under their own responsibility. The implementation of the Union contribution in Horizon Europe implies that the full list of instruments in the related Horizon Europe pillar can be used, ranging from research and innovation, RIA types of actions, to coordination and support actions, and includes grants, prizes, or procurement. Next slide. Co-funded partnerships, in turn, will follow the principle of integrated program with distributed implementation. What does it mean? In this type of partnership, we will have a grant agreement signed between the Commission and a consortium of beneficiaries. Typically, those beneficiaries will be national funding agencies. The recipients of the EU co-funding implement the initiative under their responsibility, with national funding and national resources pooled to implement the program with co-funding from the Union. In other words, EC funds are transferred to the network of funding agencies that will then launch the calls and the activities and finance them at national level. The funding rate is 30% and can go up to 50% if research activities are done by the consortium directly. It's important to note that the applicants to these calls are funded on the basis of national funding rules. And it has to be clear from the beginning who the partners in the consortium will be. A strong commitment from member states, commitment of resources, as those are long programs, and a strong role of ministries is important. And it's important to differentiate between beneficiaries of the co-fund, but then from the beneficiaries of the grants cascade. Next slide. Finally, institutionalized partnerships, which follow a centralized implementation through a creation of a dedicated implementation structure. I'm sure you have heard of initiatives such as Clean Sky, Hydrogen, Prima, etc. These are all examples of the institutionalized partnerships. This type of partnership is the most complex and high effort arrangement, and it requires meeting additional requirements, and it takes a long time to prepare. Last time around, it took on average 2 years. Institutionalized partnerships are based on Council regulation, Article 187, or a decision by the European Parliament and Council, Article 185, and EIT regulation for the knowledge and innovation communities. Therefore, they require the adoption of legislation and are subject to an ex ante impact assessment before we can even decide whether to go forward with proposing these initiatives. In this case, Horizon Europe rules for participation apply by default, which means open calls, not national rules. The rationale for this type of partnership is the need for a strong integration of research and innovation agendas in the private and/or public sectors in the EU in order to address a strategic challenge. It's therefore necessary to demonstrate ex ante that other forms of implementation would not achieve the same objectives or would not generate the necessary expected impacts. This is demonstrated through the impact assessments ex ante. Central management of contributions, meaning that those are managed by the JU, the joint undertaking, and not at the national level. Financial contribution is required for the administrative management of the initiative to share the burden. Next slide. So this was the theory on the implementation. Let's see where we are now. We have an ambitious portfolio of 49 candidate partnerships. This concludes successfully the reform and the rationalization ambition from currently more than 120 partnerships. Member states have been closely involved in defining these priorities. This has ensured that a strong ownership and a buy-in, and as a result, actually, we can see that member states have committed to co-invest into the twin transition through partnerships with almost 11 billion euros in these ex-ante commitments that they had to give. Important also that for the first time we will have a dedicated strategic coordination process for partnerships, which is a governance structure to develop the portfolio and policy approach. Through this process, member states were involved also very early. Next slide. So this is the current list, the overview of the 49 candidate partnerships. As you will see, future partnerships are highly relevant to the Commission priorities, the Green Deal, the people-centered economy, digital age, and stronger Europe in the world. The majority of the proposed partnerships aim at accelerating transitions towards climate neutral and circular society and economy. Consequently, many candidates are to team up with the private sector to decarbonize energy, mobility, and steel sectors, or with the member states to provide solutions for the protection and sustainable management of resources, for example, water, soil, or biodiversity. Others aim at building greater resilience of Europe's healthcare systems and industry, including by ensuring EU's technological leadership and open strategic autonomy in critical areas such as smart networks and services, AI, data and robotics, photonics, hydrogen, and batteries. Most of these will start in 2021, 2022. In health and food and bioeconomy, there is a short list of 8 partnerships that will start in 23-24. That is because they build on ongoing initiatives which are still running, or they require more time for preparation because they are completely new partnerships. All industry partnerships we expect to start in 21-23, while those starting later are generally those involving member states in participating states. This is a stable list in our opinion. We don't expect any changes to this. Next slide, please. So here's the timeline, what's happening. All the current candidate partnerships are on track in developing their strategic agendas. Co-programmed and co-funded will feature in the strategic plan. We expect the majority of the partnerships to be launched this year, or next year, provided that they fulfill the criteria in the Horizon Europe legal base, notably directionality and partners' long-term commitment. We are also currently working on the adoption of the Commission proposals for Article 187, initiatives. These are the joint undertakings and Euro HPC joint undertaking initiatives. The 9 other ones will be put in one single basic act. And for Article 185, which is the metrology initiative. This will be followed by negotiations with the Council and the Parliament, and hopefully for the final adoption before the end of the year. This is important in order to start launching calls for JU still this year. Co-funded will start their implementation later. Why? While the calls linked to them will go in our work program, now 2021-22 work program, then the consortiums need to send their proposals, which need to be evaluated, negotiated, and the grant agreements need to be signed. And only then their implementation can start. Next slide. And this is my final slide. It contains very useful sources. We published all our 49 candidate partnership proposals on our corporate website, Horizon Europe website, and these are the proposals elaborated by the partners. With this, we wanted to ensure transparency and the inclusiveness in the preparation process, as well as better planning of synergies between the partnerships and other types of initiatives, including the missions. If you are interested in getting details, I really urge you to go to this website, and there are also names of contact people who to contact in case there are people who want to, or organizations and industry representatives who are interested in joining these partnerships. The second link is here to ERALearn. ERALearn is an initiative working together with us, aimed at informing everything linked to partnerships and their implementation. Together with the ERALearn and our team, we are organizing on the 4th of March a webinar on preparing co-funded European partnerships. This webinar will focus on representing the state of play. It will clarify all open questions and facilitate first exchanges of experiences in preparing these co-funded European partnerships. So the main topics will be strategic coordinating process, governance, financial management, co-funded calls, and other activities. There will be a series of other workshops under ERALearn and by us in support of the new partnerships. So follow this website for more information on this if you are interested to join. So we look forward to continue working together with Malta and with all EU member states in the context of the new strategic coordinating process to support the evidence-based policy for partnerships and the strategic vision for the landscape, and to allow a consolidated view on the progress made by the partnerships. We know that Malta considers the partnerships as of high value and will continue to be a strong partner in many partnerships. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Ms. Minna Wilkki, Head of Unit, DG R&I Missions and Partnerships Unit. I believe on behalf of MCST, I can say that we look forward to working with you as well. So now we move on to our next speaker. Again, we will be focusing on novelties in the Horizon Europe program from the European Innovation Council. I would like to invite Mr. Jean-David Malo, Director, DG R&I EIC Task Force. In your good hands, Mr. Malo.
Thank you very much, Giselle. I hope that you hear me loud and clear.
Yes, indeed. You are heard very loud and clear.
Thanks a lot. First of all, I'm delighted to be among you this afternoon with the opportunity to inform you more on the novelties indeed relating to the innovation domain as far as Horizon Europe is concerned, with the particular focus on one of its main novelty, and if not one of the main novelties of the World Framework Program, which is the European Innovation Council. So if we can move to the next slide. Just to recall you the structure of the third pillar of Horizon Europe. So in Horizon Europe, in the third pillar, our objective is clearly to stimulate, in fact, the EU innovation ecosystem, and in particular, market-creating breakthrough or game-changing innovation. And this is the reason why within this pillar, you have in the center of this slide a program which may appear as a small program if you look at its budgetary dotation, but which is pivotal because its purpose is clearly to connect the various innovation actors in the Union at regional and national level. And this is the purpose of the European Innovation Ecosystem Program, where you have obvious connection between two main actors, not the only actors, but two main actors, at least as far as the EU level is concerned, two main actors that are part of this third pillar. One that, of course, exists now since 10 years, as the European Institute of Innovation and Technology, which has really the purpose to bring key actors of the knowledge triangle together, in particular at local level. While the other one, which is the main novelty, the European Innovation Council, has more the purpose at EU level to support, on one hand, the emergence of radical new ideas that can lead to innovation processes, products that ultimately are creating values, but also that has the purpose in this context to bring the necessary means to those who are turning this knowledge into concrete innovation, that are startups and SMEs. And these three programs, in fact, are working clearly in direct connection to each other. Reason why, in fact, they are part of the same pillar, but also reason why, as far as the two first are concerned, they are part of the same program committee in terms of governance with member states. If we can move to the next slide. Thank you very much. And directly the next one. Just to give you a bit of background on the rationale for the innovation, the European Innovation Council, and why, in fact, this part of the third pillar is so important. You certainly remember that 4 years ago, we took stock, in fact, of the situation of Europe as far as support to innovation was concerned. It was part of the several actions of the Innovation Union communication. And in a nutshell, what has been highlighted is the following. First, we remain, as far as the Union is concerned, very, very strong regarding our capacity to generate knowledge, research results more globally, as this can be exemplified and illustrated by the number of Nobel Prizes that are still coming from the Union, the capacity of our university to attract some of the best researchers of the world, and last but not least, the success of a program such as the European Research Council. But on the other hand, despite a number of improvements over the last 2 decades, we remain with a number of weaknesses regarding our capacity, first, to transfer this knowledge from our lab to enterprise. And second, we remain with difficulties to accompany our enterprise that are carrying out this type of game-changing innovation that are in particular deep tech oriented. And this is typically exemplified by our difficulty, while we are able to generate more startups than the US, and it was the case in the last 2 years, for example, our capacity despite this, to have at the end a number of unicorns, and I will just show you a few figures about this. On top of this, we remain with a fragmented innovation ecosystem in Europe, but the real issue here is not really the fragmentation per se, because the fragmentation, of course, is an obstacle, but is not the only reason. I mean, you have also a fragmented innovation ecosystem, for example, in the United States of America. But the main difference between the US and the EU is that those various innovation hubs that you can find in the US are interconnected and are therefore creating the possibility to have access to necessary means as far as the ecosystem is concerned for the needs of their startup and SMEs. And this remains a big challenge in reality in Europe. And last but not least, we remain, of course, with a number of innovation divides geographically, but also as far as gender issue are concerned. So if we move quickly over the next slide, just what I told you is perfectly exemplified by the 3 or 4 next slides, on which I will go very quickly. So next slide, please. So this is the capacity to raise funds, in fact, in the US versus the Union, because one of the difficulty that we had, that I just mentioned in the accompanying, in fact, of our startup and SMEs, is mainly due to not only the risk awareness of our VC, to the characteristic of this VC market, which is characterized mainly by the fact that the funds are much more smaller than in the US, and therefore explains that they have difficulties, despite for a number of them, their willingness to do so, to take more risk due to the granularity of their portfolio. If we move to the next slide. So it will come in a second. Thank you. We see also that these difficulties that I mentioned regarding the connection of the various actors in the innovation ecosystem is perfectly exemplified here by the lack of links that university may have with industry investors, startups. The fact that you have this kind of graph when you require their vision is a perfect illustration that indeed we have there a real global problem of connectedness. Next slide. And this is the unicorn that I was mentioning a few minutes ago. We see clearly that indeed we are lagging behind North America and now Asia. If we go to the next slide, what is at stake here, and I will conclude my introduction with this, what is at stake here is clearly where are the domain where investments must be done. We know, and everybody is totally in agreement with this, that by definition, a number of technology are over the time creating a disruption of the market and are creating therefore new markets and have a direct impact also on our society. So this was clearly exemplified by the introduction at the end of the 2 previous centuries, beginning of the last century, of electricity, car, and so on. They have modified our society. At that time, we were leaders with the US. It's clear that we lost the previous revolution, which were more related to social media, digital platform, in the Internet of Things, to make it global. where clearly the American has won this battle. Now, the key question is, what will be the next revolution? It's clear that the next revolution, we can feel it, will be deep tech oriented. We can feel it even if we don't know yet what will be the result. We can feel it by the evolution of the technology on new batteries, the impact that artificial intelligence have already on our life, the possibilities that seems to be open by quantum computing, and so on. So now the key question is, in order to participate, in fact, to this battle, and therefore to have a chance to lead a number of sectors, not for the beauty of leading a number of sectors, but therefore to have our say in the modeling also of the society, we have to take a number of risks and to decide to invest in this particular domains that are emerging. And this is what is at stake, because if we are not leading in a number of domains that very likely will impact our society, it's also our own model of society that will be touched, and of course, jobs and the way we live. Next slide, please. So if we can move quickly to the next slide. We had the chance over the last 2 years to test, in fact, what we had in mind regarding solutions in order to tackle the weaknesses that I mentioned a few minutes ago. We tested, in fact, the downside part of the EIC, which has the purpose to provide means for startup and SMEs that are mainly deep tech oriented in order to scale up quickly. We did it by reshaping the Horizon 2020 SM instrument into what we are calling now the EIC accelerator, by changing the type of funding that we have decided to provide to our promising startup and SMEs, not only to provide them with a grant support, usually reaching 2.5 million euro, representing 70% of their eligible cost, but by providing them also in combination the possibility of an equity support, because this is something that we never tested at EU level, what we did in the past for several decades in order to tackle the issues that I was mentioning regarding the risk awareness of private investors in this particular segment, was more to act indirectly, so to contribute to the fundraising of a fund via our EIF body, but never directly. So here we are trying to have a different approach by investing directly within SMEs and startup in order to create the condition to attract private investors and to de-risk the investment for their purpose, and to give a chance for some very promising startup and SMEs to turn their ideas into life. Of course, this must be complemented by other kind of support, because money is important but is not sufficient. So we are complementing this by a number of business acceleration services that are offered in fact, to our EIC accelerator beneficiaries, be it in terms of coaching, on mentoring, of possibility to meet a large corporate, to meet investors, but to meet also public or private procurers, just to name a number of the accompanying measures that we are providing. What was very interesting in this pilot is that indeed the demand coming from the startup and the SMEs was just enormous. I mean, only in 2020, we have received for the 4 calls that we launched under the EIC pilot accelerator, not less than 14,000 candidature. And this was on one hand very positive, because it demonstrated that indeed there is a need on the market. On the other end, the challenge, because as you know, the success rate under the EIC accelerator pilot was very low. In the last call, we had a success rate that was around 1%, and in average in the calls around 2%. What was very interesting also to quote during this period is that gradually, thanks to a number of measures that we have introduced, we have been able to increase the number of startup and SMEs that are led by women. Interesting dimension also is that, as you know, the EIC Accelerator is bottom-up driven mainly, while we have already started to introduce some top-down, some challenge approach in our calls, namely during the COVID crisis, but also in order to support the Green Deal transition. But altogether, we have seen that 90% of the companies that we have selected were directly involved in addressing the Sustainable Development Goals. So making clear that this dual approach, bottom-up and top-down, was fitting with the SDG and also was fitting with the main priorities of the Commission led by our President, Mrs. Ursula von der Leyen, as you can see it with the breakdown of the project per main thematics. Last but not least, during this pilot, we have seen also that indeed the approach that we have initially developed under the SM instrument and then complemented with the EIC Accelerator was able to leverage additional investment. And from 2014, the private investments that was leveraged, in fact, in the SM instrument and in the EIC Accelerator pilot reach more than 5 billion euro, while we have invested a bit less than 1.6. So, and among them, we had our first unicorn, Selink, who, by the way, was supported not only by the accelerator, but also by the Pathfinder part of the EIC, on which I will come back in a minute, and a number of companies that were valued beyond 100 million euros, meaning centers. Next slide, please. The slide, of course, will be available for all of you. I will not comment. This one is just a picture of the origin of the companies per country that were supported by the accelerator since the beginning of the SM instrument in 2014. We can move quickly to the next slide. During this pilot, we have also tested the new orientation that we have given to the upstream dimension of the EIC, which has a purpose to support the emergence of radical new technology, emerging new technologies that can ultimately become innovation processes, building on the Future Emerging Technology Program in its bottom-up and top-down approach, the open and proactive dimension. And what we have seen during this period is that indeed these projects have excellent results. First of all, in terms, as it was the initial purpose of FET, in terms of generation of knowledge, and a very impressive number of publications emerged from this project, and in particular were published in very high profile rated journals. But more interestingly, a lot of this project were at the origin of a number of innovation that were addressing new and emerging markets. And within the Pathfinder, what we are doing, in fact, is to build on the success of FET, so keeping the DNA of FET, but providing more support in order to use in the most efficient way as possible these results that are emerging in the course of a project or after a project supported via the Pathfinder. Next slide, please. So in this context, and I will not enter into the details, but this will be available, of course. The Maltese participation in the pilot was at the level expected, even better than what was expected. I mean, Malta ranks 15th among the member states in this pilot. A number of startup and SMEs were supported under the SME instrument or the EIC accelerators. They are mentioned on this first slide. We can move to the next one. And in the Pathfinder also, the participation of Malta entities is totally relevant. You have a success rate for the participation, which nevertheless would deserve maybe to be addressed. And you have there indeed a number of participation also that are precise. Next slide, please. So what will the EIC look like in Horizon Europe? And as you certainly know, we are currently finalizing the first work program of the EIC, and we intend to launch the official consultation of our shadow program committee in the coming days, after long discussion with them in order to have something that would fit for purpose. This work program and the EIC as a whole will be clearly a very ambitious initiative. First, with a very impressive budget, as I mentioned it in my introduction, and where our objective is clearly to identify, develop, and scale up high-risk innovation with a particular focus on what I will globally call game-changing innovation, with the purpose to penetrate existing or to create a new market. For this, we have worked, of course, with member state stakeholders, but also with, as you know, a board, an advisory board, independent. I will present them to your attention in a minute. In the future, we will remain with this independent board, but with, in addition, a president for this board. And this board will be there in order to advise the Commission, in order to set up the strategy and to oversee the whole implementation of the EIC, which will be clearly a one-stop shop for the implementation of this objective to support emergence of new ideas up to the scaling up of companies that are carrying out this new technology via two bodies that we are creating. One is already created, it was incorporated on June last year, and it is the equity dimension of the accelerators, the EIC fund. And the other one will be officially launched on the 1st of April. It will be an executive agency that will manage the whole EIC program as far as the grant dimension and other dimension except the investment part is concerned, as well, in order to be even more impactful in terms of synergies, as well as all the SME dimension of the single market program and the innovation dimension centrally managed by the structural funds, meaning the innovation investments, the interregional innovation investment of the structural funds. We have designed the work program as well as the whole EIC as such, as well as the two bodies I was just mentioning, in a way that will ensure that we will have a lot of agility in the way to interact. One of the illustration of this is that the work program is a work program of 1 year by opposition to the other work program, the main work program of Horizon Europe that will have only 2 years, that will be for 2 years, in order to react very quickly and to be able to do what we did, for example, in the context of the COVID crisis, and with very flexible funding. Reason why the type of funding, the type of support that will be offered, depending if you will be more on the upstream dimension or in the downstream dimension of the EIC, will be of a different nature with a different type of support. In order to be also very agile and to have something which is as much as tailor-made as possible, as you know, one of the other particularity of the EIC will be the introduction of program managers. So program managers are people that will be hired for a temporary period by the Commission, usually 3 years. And they will be there in order to develop visions for breakthrough innovation and to steer, in fact, portfolio of projects, mainly coming from the Pathfinder part, but that could also incorporate projects from the accelerator part, in order to provide the necessary support as far as connection with the relevant network, link with the most advanced state-of-the-art in a particular domain for the beneficiaries of the EIC, but also to advise the Commission for the future calls. We have ensured that we will have a fast-track access within Horizon, meaning that some projects that were supported under the ERC or the EIT, or for example also Eureka, in particular Eurostar 2, in the future partnership with Eureka, will have under certain conditions the possibility to access either to the transition activities or to the accelerator part of our calls. All of this, of course, must be done excuse me, in very close connection with the innovation ecosystem. And this is why we will use also the IC Forum to reflect on possible new ideas that ultimately could be bring to the attention of the decision maker, meaning the program committees. So we will use the IC Forum for this purpose. And of course, we will work in very close synergy with the European Institute of Innovation and Technology, with whom we signed, as you know, a memorandum of understanding a few weeks ago, as well as with all the other innovation ecosystem actors in the Union, and in particular, when the investment dimension is concerned, reason why in the accelerator in the future, you will not have only the grant and the blended finance type of support, but also the equity only or equity-like only possibility of support. Maybe we can go to the next slide. So I will not develop much more this slide, which is in fact summarizing what I just told you a few minutes ago regarding the one-stop shop approach and the agility of the funding. I will just insist, of course, on the importance as far as investment is concerned to create the condition for crowding in other investors. And this is something that on which we are addressing a lot of importance. Our purpose as far as the accelerator is concerned is not to replace the private sector, but to attract the private sector by taking the risk first. We are advised currently by this advisory board, which is chaired by Mark Ferguson and vice chaired by Herman Hauser. You can see that in this group of 20 persons, you have people that are coming from various origin, VCs, but also very well-known researchers, very successful researchers. I'm thinking in particular of Valeria Nicolosi, who has something like more than 5 ERC grants, or leaders of very important RTOs like Bruno Sportis, which is the CEO of Enria in France, or Anita Kron-Trachet, which is the former head of the innovation agency in Norway. So very large and very diverse origin in order to cover the whole journey of the EIC. We will, of course, appoint a new board in the course of the year. The new board will be appointed by this summer. There will be, as usual, a call of expression of interest. We will also appoint a new president again by the end of this summer. If we can move to the next slide. We can go through this next slide. We can move to the next one. Just to tell you very quickly, because I see that the clock is running, a few words regarding the main novelties in 2021. If we can go to the previous slide first. So starting with the Pathfinder,
we will have on the Pathfinder both bottom-up and targeted calls. So targeted calls will be on health, energy, and digital technologies. One of the main novelty will be the introduction officially of the management of projects, of course, on a bilateral basis, usually with a PO, with a project officer of the Commission, but on top of this, via portfolio of projects that will be either thematic driven or challenge driven, and with the possibility of an additional follow-up grants to test the feasibility and of a number of dimensions in order to prepare the project to the next steps. In particular, a transition activity, which is a new scheme, which has this purpose to bridge the gap between lab and enterprise, where we would like to provide support in order to make the company ready for the next steps, regarding in particular the EIC accelerator. And in this first phase, we will ensure also that the fast track I was mentioning a few minutes ago will be open in particular for ERC proof of concept. On the next slide, a few key novelties as far as the accelerator is concerned. There also, we will proceed mainly by a bottom-up approach, but there also, we will have additional fundings that will be challenge-based on the Green Deal, on digital transformation, and on health technologies. This part mainly supported by the next generation EU budget, which is topping up, in fact, the usual budget of the Union. The type of support that will be provided there will be mainly blended finance, so grant and investment, but there will be still the possibility of a grant only or a grant first support with investment follow-up, but also the possibility of an equity only support. We have very profoundly change the application and the evaluation process. I was mentioning a few minutes ago the very low success rate that we had due to the very high quality of proposals that we have received during the pilot. So we have decided to modify the evaluation process. First, in order to allow for startup and SMEs to apply at any time with a short form, not more than 5 pages, with a video pitch and a slide deck, and where a very quick feedback within 4 weeks will be provided. If you can stay on the previous slide, thank you very much. Not the next one, but the previous one. And thank you. But there, if they are successful, so if they move towards this first possibility, proposers will have the possibility to have support from an artificial intelligence platform, and as well as coaching services to prepare a full application. So we believe that by doing this, we will, by definition, increase the success rate, but also cut a number of red tape for startup and SMEs. There will be a second chance to apply if you are not successful after the first attempt. And of course, as far as investment is concerned, we will, now that we have learned from the pilot, review the due diligence and the decision-making process in order to be quicker, and we are finalizing a platform in order to crowding other investors. Next slide, and it will be my last slide. So the next steps, as I told you in my introduction, we launch in the very next days the formal adoption process, starting with the consultation of the program committee and then followed by an official adoption by the Commission. The launch of the calls remains to be confirmed because, as you know, the Horizon Europe legal basis is not yet adopted, and we would like to have deadlines and cutoff that will fit with the possibility with potential submissionaires to submit a very solid and robust proposal. We are, for the time being, expecting to have a first deadline for the IC Accelerator, for example, in June, but this may rip a little bit, depending on what I just told you a few minutes ago. We intend to have, therefore, our first evaluation, our first interviews, our first grants, and our first due diligence for equity still during this year, and very likely to be able to announce the first result for a number of these calls before the end of the year. And because it is the way it works, of course, already in autumn, we will launch the next work program for 2022, and we will already start in the coming months to discuss with our program committee what could be the orientation of this next work program. So sorry if I was maybe a bit too long, but a lot of things to be shared with you, and I'm sure that if we would have the possibility, we would have been able also to go more in depth. Thank you for your attention.
Thank you very much, Mr. Jean-David Malo. Apologies for running a bit late there, but we are now on to our last and final presentation. I would like to invite Ms. Anthea Fabri, who is the Director of the Framework Program Unit at MCST, and she will be talking to us about the National Contact Point Services. Thank you.
Thank you, Giselle, and good afternoon to everyone, to all the participants who are still online with us today. I hope you have found all the information we provided to you very informative, and also the success stories you have heard, they will encourage you to participate in the next framework program. Now I would like to speak to you about the Malta Council for Science and Technology, how the framework program unit can help you in participating. As you have heard from our chairman, MCST's role and mandate has evolved throughout the years. And next slide, please. And now we have 3 technical units, and one of them is the framework program indeed. And we are the National Contact Point Organization for Horizon Europe. So as we have been mandated by the government to manage the framework program in Malta, and so the National Contact Point Organization, the National Contact Points are all hosted under one roof. The aim, the role of the National Contact Points is to provide guidance, practical information, and assistance on all the aspects of participating in the framework program. So such networks, as I mentioned, are set up and financed by the governments, and they're official networks in all the member states and the associated countries as well. And as national contact points, our objective is mainly to support, as I said, all the participants. So not only by spreading awareness and making the program visible to all the participants, but we provide tailor-made advice to all our clients. So irrespective from which entity they come from, they could be individual researchers, researchers from private entities, and also from academia. And irrespective also from the area they want to have more information on. So one of the main roles of the NCPs, as I mentioned, is to spread information and awareness on the program. And this, we do it by circulating general information, documents on participation, on conditions for participation, eligibility for participation. We spread information on upcoming events, upcoming calls, and also brokerage events and other funding opportunities. Information on project reporting. And we do this through email and our website, but also we use these social platforms which you can see on the screen. So we have Facebook page, Twitter, LinkedIn, and a YouTube channel. And indeed, from here I encourage you to subscribe to any of these platforms, so you will receive updated information from your national contact points. We also, from time to time, organize information and promotional activities, but unfortunately for the time being, as everyone knows, we are not able to do these physical events. But since the pandemic started last year, we have organized numerous webinars, and we will indeed start doing this once the Horizon Europe calls are officially launched. We will start again with a series of webinars every week, so you will be informed about the technicalities about participating in the project, in the program. So as I mentioned, it's beneficial to subscribe to our platforms, so you will receive all the information whenever we are having these webinars. But our services are not only mass communication. We also do a lot of one-to-one consultations with researchers and organizations to identify opportunities in the program. So we can help you choose the relevant area, the relevant topic which is suited for your needs. We help you navigate through the EU portal, because sometimes that can be a very difficult job. And we assist also in partner searches. You may recall that for this program, for the majority part of this program, you need to have partners and collaboration with other EU countries. So this is also where the role of the NCPs come in, and we help you find partners to join in your projects, or for you to join their projects. And we advise on administrative procedures, such as rules and obligations, and other legal and financial procedures of the program. So as you can see, our services are throughout the whole process of participation. Another important role, next slide please, is that the NCPs are also program committee members for all the areas of Horizon Europe. And as program committee members, we here represent national priorities at EU level. So we make sure that Malta's interests are actively integrated in, for example, in the work programs. So we, as program committees, we contribute to the shaping of the work programs before these are published. And so the input we provide can consist of suggestions, for example, for new topics, which can go into the work programs, and also for requests to adapt specific calls to make them more appropriate for small countries. Next slide. So what do we have planned for 2021? As I mentioned, in the coming weeks, we will be starting a series of webinars to go through the first wave of Horizon Europe calls, which will be published, as we heard, in the coming weeks. And once these are published, we will start with a series of webinars, like we did last year, where last year we had Webinar Wednesdays. We will continue doing this to go through all the calls, which will be published eventually. Then we have a number of support schemes, which we will be launching also in the coming weeks. Many of you might be familiar with the International Partners Award Scheme, IPES Plus, because the scheme has now been running at MCST for some years. But since last year, we added a new part, Part B, which is mainly aimed at offering the opportunity to entities who would like to coordinate a project to engage a service provider to help them support and to make their proposal better and more competitive when it comes to submission. And so we will be also running this scheme throughout 2021. PF to MT, this is postdoctoral fellowships to Malta. The scheme was launched by MCST last year. Last year it was called IF to MT. And it was mainly to attract postdoc researchers to come to do their postdoc research in Malta, and through the Marie Curie fellowships. So the scheme is mainly aimed at training these researchers to help them improve, again, their proposals for submissions. In fact, this training was held last year. It was an online training, and it resulted in over 20 submissions of proposals, out of which 5 have been funded, so it's a very good result for us. So again, since this scheme was successful in 2020, we will also be running this scheme this year. And again, further information, we will be providing that in the coming weeks. The networking scheme, the aim here is to support researchers and entities to participate in brokerage and networking events. But unfortunately, we will have to see how this will work out this year in practice due to the current pandemic. But again, we will keep you posted on how we will be implementing this scheme. And for this year, we have 2 new support schemes which we are planning. We have the EIC, the European Innovation Council, which we just heard about from the previous speaker, and the ERC, the European Research Council. These are very competitive funds, and we would like to support our researchers and our entities to submit more competitive proposals for these 2 schemes. Again, we will, all the details will come out in the coming weeks. Next slide. So these are the team of the national contact points and their respective details and contact details and the areas they will be working on in the new framework program. And I highly encourage you to get in touch with us and benefit from the expert advice which my colleagues can provide you with. Before closing off, I would like you all to bear with me one final minute and participate in this poll, which we would like you, it will be soon pop up on your screen. It would help us a lot if you could rate our event and tell us what you thought about this event today. So just a few minutes. This will be very beneficial, as I said, for us to help us improve our work and our services for any future events we will be holding. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Anthea, for your presentation there. I'm sure, I hope at least you found that very beneficial. If you could kindly take a minute or 2 to fill in the poll, that would help Anthea's team very much in this exercise. So once again, I thank you all for participating in today's event. I hope you found it very, very useful. And on behalf of MCST, I would like to wish you the best of luck for any potential applicants. Thank you very much and have a good afternoon.